It's a nice Wednesday, and I figured I'll post a few things since it's been a minute since I really came up here talking. But I'm always thinking about stuff, and I have my opinions. That's all this is just my opinions. Um, it's not about me being right or wrong. Obviously, I have a feeling that I'm right about certain things, but this is just my perspective. Many things I post. At times, I post things very emotional, so it can give impression that I'm right and you're wrong, but at the grand scheme of things, it's just my perspective, which reflects the things that I take in consideration when I come to conclusions. I had a thought that I never had before, and it was in relation to the black thought, the black thinker's idea of embracing Africa, going back to Africa, and these things. Our heritage is definitely important, but I also think there's something that's important to keep in mind too. Now, this doesn't take away from the necessity to learn and embrace, and even in most cases, to assimilate to some traditional heritage that's attributed to our African bloodline. But I think it's important to understand that when it comes to racism, which most of the world issues is based on some form of racism, whether it's race due to your genetic background, your cultural practices, your religious beliefs, is always something that's dealing with that form. So, what's behind racism is tribalism, a sense of uniqueness. Classism is a definitive aspect of a lot of the conflicts we have. Classism, that's broken down to the have and have-nots. It's really deep when it comes to classism. That's the primary underlying theme, and that's racism practiced on a higher level. But classism exists in Africa too. Every culture have a form of it. So it's not as if embracing our African heritage that we will be above the fray of war, conflict, even certain paradigms in relation to gender roles. I think the issue overall is just addressing the human sickness of indifference towards each other. But primarily keeping focus on the point of posting this video as a black man is that we have to understand that knowing who you are doesn't mean that you will be better than those who are not you. Knowing who you are is important to understanding certain aspects of yourself, like skin tone. And I also believe in genetic memories. Obviously, science shows and do simple, honest observation that racial groups have certain attributes that are different physically. Some racial groups are taller than others. Some are physically more durable than others. That being said, some may even possess a higher affinity for intellect than others, possibly. That's a tricky one because I do believe that is in the realm of consciousness, and I think when we're dealing with equality, you get one person from every racial group on the earth, even undiscovered Amazonians, if that's the case, or tribal groups that haven't had contact with humankind. You take their child and we grow them up in a controlled environment where they're given the proper, healthy food, positive ideas, and education. I believe that human potential is equal. But generally speaking, there's differences, right? But the differences are really the illusion. So knowing thyself is not to say I'm better than, but in certain cases, and I'm speaking again, I'm going to stick to the African American tribe. Speaking to knowing who you are, in our case, is to understand the ideas of having pride, knowing your value and what you're worth and what you've done, what people from your bloodline have done in contributing to civilization, and also understanding that many of our issues can be solved, but there are certain things that we've adopted and made our own that wasn't designed for us, and it absolutely does not help us. And there's some very sensitive topics. Religion is one. Adopted behavior is two. And the lack of knowing our contributions to the world is three. For many African Americans, our sum total of worth stops consciously at slavery, and subconsciously we have ideas that there's a lot of information out there about African kingdoms and things like that, but that's not something that's taught. Even the average African American adult doesn't embrace that and teaches that to their kids. So this is vital information that we don't take advantage of. We're pretty much going with the flow in many aspects. So I think it's important that we learn who we are in order to understand that there's certain things that we need to know and need to do to recover ourselves. So let me ask you this: like, let's say the sun. I mean, this may sound metaphysical or superstitious or whatever word can be used, but one simple fact is to look at the pigment in our skin, right? It is as if we were designed for this earth, right? Now the sun is the life giver to all life that we know of, and everything that we rely on to survive. Even plant life is the energy and the waves and the heat from the sun. And think about that. We can go in the sun all day and our body will absorb that light and create vitamin E and vitamin D and all these things and energize us. This is not, so let's say we take, this is a conversation for, a round table, but I just want to throw these little ideas, simple things about knowing ourselves. This is not about, this is just knowing just some basic facts. So it's one thing talking about religion, right? Saying that they, do this for God, but this is another thing talking about a universal truth. This is something that's true no matter if you're a Satanist, what they call non-religious atheist, a Christian. This is irregardless of any of that, any conviction. Is that sun out there, that life-giving star, that life-giving that we call star, which is billions of them all around the universe. Our skin absorbs that energy. So you tell me, who can tell you that you're not worth something? That you're not, that this earth is not yours. You see what I'm saying? We can endure all type of things. So look, being African, learning your history does not make you immune from being any better. I mean, it doesn't make you any better than the average person who's out here doing causing, you know, it doesn't make you better than a white man or a red man or a yellow man or anything like that. We got to understand that the same conflicts that exist when it comes to classism exist in Africa, Europe, Asia. It's a human cognitive disorder when it comes to the idea that your fellow human is less than or more than you, specifically based on relevant things, the amount of money or the color of the skin, the height. What y'all think about that? This idea that, you know, we promote Africa as a saving grace of us, I think is extremely important to our character development and recovery, but classism in itself is the real enemy, and this is everywhere. It's everywhere.